Hey everyone, welcome back to Set for You. In this video, I'll be walking through the Edexcel GCSE Foundation Maths June 2025 Paper 3 exam. So grab a pen, some paper and a calculator and let's get started. In the first question, we are told to write down the value of 7 in the number 49.715. So using our place value, we can see that the number 7 represents the tenths. So the answer is simply 0.7. In the second question, we are told to find the square root of 5.76, so simply using your calculator, that gives you an answer of 2.4. In question 3, we are told to write 19% as a fraction, so remember percent means per 100, so we can simply write this as 19 over 100. In question 4, we are given some fractions. Which one of these fractions is not equivalent to 1/3? So the simplest way we can go about answering this question is by simplifying each fraction. So if we simplify each fraction, the first fraction, we can divide the numerator and the denominator by 3. So that gives us 1/3. And you will notice that the denominator is 3 times the numerator. So our answer is definitely not 3 over 9. The same can be said about 6 over 18. That simplifies to 1 over 3. And 2 over 6 also simplifies to 1 over 3. And for 4 over 10, if we divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, that gives us 2 over 5. And for the last fraction, 5 over 15, if we divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, that gives us 1/3. So it's definitely not 5 over 15. So our final answer is simply 4 over 10. In question 5, we are told to write down 2 factors of 32. So if we divide 32 by 2, given as it's an even number, that gives us 16. So the 2 factors we can write down are 2 and 16. In question 6, we are told that Abby has some £10 notes and some £20 notes. The notes have a total value of £400. Abby has 6 £20 notes. Work out the number of £10 notes Abby has. If we multiply £20 by 6, that gives us £120. And if we subtract £120 from £400, that gives us a value of £280. And if we divide this value of £280 by £10, that gives us an answer of 28. Therefore, Abby has 28 £10 notes. In question 7, we are told that Tom has a fair ordinary dice. He rolls the dice once. On the probability scale below, mark with a cross X the probability that Tom gets the number 2. So given as there are 6 spaces on our probability scale, we can simply mark the first space because that would be the probability of him scoring a 2, which is 1 over 6. In the second part of this question, we are told to mark on the probability scale below the probability that Tom gets a number greater than 4. So in a fair ordinary dice, there are only 2 numbers that are greater than 4, 5 and 6. So that means the probability of him scoring either of these numbers will simply be 2 over 6, and that will be marked here. In question 8, we are given a menu. Asma can choose 1 drink and 1 cake. Write down all the possible combinations Asma can choose. So really easily, we can see that for each drink, he can pick a single cake. So we know that there are 3 possible drinks he can select and 3 possible cakes he can select. So if we multiply those numbers, that gives us 9. So we know in this question, there are 9 possible combinations. So very easily, he can pick a coffee and a brownie, a coffee and a flapjack, a coffee and a scone, a tea and a brownie, a tea and a flapjack, and a tea and a scone. And finally, he can pick a lemon and a brownie, a lemon and a flapjack, and a lemon and a scone. And those are your final answers. In the first part of question 9, we are told to write down the coordinates of point A. So with any coordinates, you must always start with the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. So the x coordinate of point A can easily be seen as -2. So I'm going to write -2. And the y coordinate is 1. So your final answer is -2, 1. In the second part of this question, we are told to mark on the grid with a cross the point D so that ABCD is a square and to label this point D. So if I draw a straight line from B to C, we can see that to get from the point B to the point C, we need to move 3 units to the right and then 1 unit up. Therefore, to get from the point A to the point D, we need to move 3 units to the right and 1 unit up, and that will take us to the point 1, 2, which I'll mark with an X and label D. And in the final part of this question, we are told to mark with a cross the point E so that C is the midpoint of BE and to label this point E. So once again, if we look at the vector translation that takes us from B to C, we can go 3 units to the right and 1 unit up. So to get from the point C to E, we can go 3 units to the right and another unit up, and that takes us to the point 5, 0 on the x-axis, and I'm going to label this E. In question 10, Jason says the cube root of 27 is 9 because 27 divided by 3 is 9. Is Jason correct? You must give a reason for your answer. So very easily we can state that no, he's not correct because the cube root of 27 is actually 3. And you can check the answer in your calculator. In question 11, we are told that Elena's height is 136 centimeters and that George's height is 1.2 meters. Elena's height is greater than George's height. How many centimeters greater? So the first thing that each and every one of you must know is that 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. You will not be given this in an exam, so make sure you do know that. And then we need to convert George's height into centimeters. So by doing that, we can multiply 1.2 meters by 100, and that gives us 120 centimeters. And the final step is to subtract this value from Elena's height. So 136 centimeters minus 120 centimeters gives us a final answer of 16 centimeters. So your final answer is 16 centimeters. In question 12, we are told that the nth term of a sequence is 4n minus 1. Work out the third term of the sequence. So for the third term of the sequence, the value of n is 3. And we can take this value of n and substitute it into the nth term of our sequence. So we have 4 times 3, which is 12, and 12 minus 1 equals 11. So the final answer for this question is 11. In the second part of this question, we are given the first 4 terms of a different sequence. Is 63 a number in the sequence? You must give a reason for your answer. So the first thing we can identify is that this is a linear sequence in which each number increases by 6. And the difference between the common difference and the first term is plus 3. So our nth term equals 6n plus 3. So if we set the nth term 6n plus 3 equal to 63 and we solve for n, we get 6n equals 60, therefore n equals 10. So this means that 63 is a 10th term in the sequence, so the final answer is yes. In question 13, we are given a quadrilateral ABCD and BCEF and DCE are straight lines. Work out the size of the angle marked X. Give a reason for each stage of your working. So the first thing we can identify is that angle FCD equals 180 degrees minus 120 degrees. So the value of angle FCD is 60 degrees. Angle BCD can also be obtained by subtracting 60 degrees from 180 degrees because angles on the same straight line add up to 180 degrees. And finally, to determine the size of angle X, we can add all the angles in quadrilateral ABCD and subtract this from 360 because angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. So X equals 360 degrees minus 90 degrees minus 45 degrees minus 120 degrees, and that equals a value of 105 degrees. So the final answer is 105 degrees. In question 14, we are told that the accurately drawn diagram shows the 2 points C and D on a map. In the first part of this question, we are told to find the bearing of D from C. So given as the bearing is from C, we need to start at the point C and get to the point D. So if I draw a straight horizontal line from the point C, I can mark this angle here as 90 degrees. And the angle that we need to work out is this angle here. And once we evaluate this angle, we can add this value onto 90 degrees to get our final answer. And when you use your protractor to measure this angle, you should get 25 degrees as your answer. So 90 plus 25 is 115 degrees. In the second part of this question, we are told that the scale of the map is 1 centimeters represents 4 kilometers. Work out the real distance from C to D. So all you just need to do is use your ruler to measure out the length CD. When measuring CD using a digital ruler, we get 7.7 centimeters. However, when you measure CD using a physical ruler, you get an answer of 7.5 centimeters. So I'm going to say that CD equals 7.5 centimeters. Therefore, to obtain the real distance of CD, we can multiply 7.5 by 4, and that gives us a value of 30. So the final answer is 30 kilometers. In question 15, we are told that there are 200 counters in a bag. 87 of the counters are green, 24 of the counters are yellow. What fraction of the counters are green? So very simply, we can divide the number of green counters by the total number of counters in the bag, and that is 87 all over 200. In the second part of this question, we are asked what percentage of the counters are yellow. So there are 24 yellow counters, and we will divide this value by the total number of counters there are, which is 200, and then we're going to multiply this value by 100 because it's a percentage we are trying to work out. And if you put this into your calculator, that gives you 12. So your final answer is 12%. In question 16, we are told that a team plays 48 games. The team wins 3/8 of the 48 games. The number of games the team loses is the same as the number of games the team draws. Work out the number of games the team loses. So the first thing we need to do is determine the number of games the team wins. So we have 3/8 multiplied by 48, and that gives us a value of 18. And then we can subtract this number from the total number of games the team wins, and that will represent the losses and draws. So L plus D, which is the number of losses and draws, equals 48 minus 18, and that gives us a value of 30. And given as the number of games the team loses is the same as the number of games the team draws, we can divide this value by 2. So 30 divided by 2 gives us a value of 15. So the final answer is 15. In question 17, 120 students are asked if they have a skateboard or a scooter. 37 of the students have a skateboard. 21 of the students who have a skateboard also have a scooter. 65 of the students have a scooter. Use this information to complete the frequency tree. So the first thing we know is that 37 of the students have a skateboard. So I'm going to put 37 in the first circle at the top. And 21 of the students who have a skateboard also have a scooter, so we can put 21 in the next circle at the top. So to determine the number of students who have a skateboard and do not have a scooter, we can subtract 21 from 37, and that gives us a value of 16. Now if we look at the second half of our frequency tree, we can subtract 37 from 120 to determine the number of students that do not have a skateboard. So 120 minus 37 is 83 if you put that in your calculator. And we also know that 65 of the students have a scooter. So we can subtract 21 from 65, and that gives us an answer of 44. So we know that there are going to be 44 students who do not have a skateboard and have a scooter. And finally, to determine the number of students that do not have a skateboard and do not have a scooter, we can subtract 44 from 83, and that gives us a final answer of 39. And that is the frequency tree. In the second part of this question, we are told that one of the 120 students is chosen at random. Find the probability that this student does not have a skateboard. So all we need to do is look at the number of students that do not have a skateboard, which is 83, and divide that answer by the total number of students. So your final answer is 83 divided by 120. In question 18, we are told that Amy buys a car. The car costs £12,000. Amy pays a deposit of 20% of the cost. She pays the rest of the cost in 24 equal monthly payments. Amy says that each monthly payment is less than £450. Is Amy correct? You must show how you get your answer. So the first thing we need to do is determine what 20% of £12,000 is. And if you put that into your calculator as 20 divided by 100, multiplied by 12,000, that gives you 2,400. We then need to subtract this value from £12,000 because that's how much Amy pays as a deposit, and that gives us £9,600. And given as Amy pays the rest of the cost in 24 equal monthly payments, we can divide £9,600 by 24, and that gives us a value of £400. And we can see that the value of £400 is less than the value of £450, therefore Amy is correct. In question 19, we are told that Katia counted the number of people in each of 50 cars. The table gives information about her results. In the first part of this question, we are told to find the median number of people. The median number of people can simply be obtained by dividing the total number of people, which is n, by 2, and in this case that will simply be 50 divided by 2. And that gives us a value of 25. So the value of 25 will lie in the second row, so the median number of people is 2. In the second part of this question, we are told to work out the mean number of people. So what we need to do is create another column, which I'll call fx, and fx can be determined by multiplying the frequency by the number of people. So in the first row we'll have 16 times 1, and that gives us 16. And hopefully you all got these values. So the mean can be determined by dividing the sum of fx by the sum of f, and the numerator can be determined by adding all the values in our third column, and the denominator can be determined by adding all the values in our frequency column. So the mean is simply 118 divided by 50, giving us a final value of 2.36. In the first part of question 20, we are told to use our calculator to work out the value of this fraction and to give our answer as a decimal. So this should be very straightforward. If you put all these values into your calculator, you should get this answer. In the second part of this question, we are told to write our answer to part A correct to two significant figures. So the first significant figure is the number 2 because it's the first non-zero digit, and the second significant figure is the number 6. So we need to look at the third significant figure, which is 5, and given as this is a number 5, we have to round the number 6 up. So our final answer is simply 0.27. In the first part of question 21, we are told to simplify y to the power of 10 divided by y squared. So using the law of indices, when you divide two indices with the same base, you subtract their powers. So 10 minus 2 is 8. So the final answer is y to the power of 8. In the second part of this question, we are told to simplify e cubed squared. So we can simply square this value. So that's e cubed times e cubed. And according to the law of indices, when you multiply two indices with the same base, you need to add their powers. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So this is just e to the power of 6. In the third part of question 21, we need to expand this expression. So x times 3x squared is just 3x cubed, and x times 5 is plus 5x. And in the final part of this question, we are told to expand and simplify n plus 5 times n minus 2. So using the FOIL method, we can multiply the first two terms. So n times n gives us n squared, n times minus 2 is minus 2n, and 5 times n is plus 5n. 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. All we need to do is simplify these middle terms. So n squared we can just leave as n squared. Minus 2n plus 5n is positive 3n, and we can add the minus 10 to the end. And that is your final answer. In question 22, we are told that the table shows information about the distances that 60 people travel to work. Draw a frequency polygon for the information in the table. So all we need to do for this question is plot the midpoint of the distances against the frequency. So the midpoint of 0 and 10 is 5, so I'm going to plot the point 5, 12, which is there. And then we need to plot 15, 25, which is here, and then 25, 10, which is here, and 35, 8, which is here, and then 45, 5, which is here. And then the final step is to join all these points. So we'll join the first 2 points, the next 2 points, the next 2 points, and the final 2 points. And that is the final answer. In question 23, we are told that Ben is trying to make m the subject of the equation p equals m over 3 plus 5. Here is his working. What mistake has Ben made? That we have the equation p minus 5 equals m over 3, which was obtained by subtracting 5 from both sides. So that part is correct, so I'll put a tick there. However, for the second line of the equation, he's multiplied both sides by 3, which is correct for the right side of the equation. But for the left side of the equation, he needs to multiply p minus 5 by 3, so there should be a bracket there. So the mistake that he made was that he didn't multiply both terms on the left side by 3. In the final part of this question, we are told to factorize fully this expression. So the highest common factor of the number 2 and 4 is 2, so we can put the number 2 outside. And the letters x and y appear in both terms, so we can put x and y next to 2. And so to determine the terms in our brackets, we need to divide 2x cubed y by 2xy. So hopefully you can see that this just simplifies to x cubed divided by x, which is simply x squared. And the final term in our brackets can be determined by dividing 4xy squared by 2xy. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and the x's cancel, and y squared divided by y is y. And that is the final answer. In question 24, we are told that Mia pays £25 for 200 oranges. Mia puts the oranges into bags. She puts 5 oranges into each bag. Mia sells all the bags of oranges for £1 each bag. Work out Mia's percentage profit. So given as Mia puts 5 oranges into each bag, we need to divide the total number of oranges, which is 200, by the total number of oranges she puts into each bag, and that gives us the value of the number of bags. So in this case, that would be 40 bags. And then we need to multiply this value by £1 because that's how much Mia sells all the bags of oranges for. So 40 multiplied by £1 equals £40. And finally, to determine the percentage profit, we need to subtract £25 from £40 and divide that value by the original price, which was £25, and multiply this answer by 100. And that gives us a value of 60%. So Mia's percentage profit is 60. In question 25, we are told that in London, 2 kilograms of carrots cost £3.75. In New York, 5 pounds of carrots cost $4.90 US. The conversion rate is £1 equals 1.20 US, and 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. In which city are carrots better value for money, London or New York? You must show how you get your answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply £3.75 by 1.20 to convert it into dollars. And that gives us a value of $4.50 US. So in London, 2 kilograms of carrots is equivalent to $4.50 US. So 1 kilogram of carrots can be bought for $2.25 US. And if we look at New York, the first thing I'm going to do is divide 5 pounds by 2.2 pounds, and that approximately gives us a value of 2.27 kilograms. So in New York, 2.27 kilograms of carrots equals $4.90 US. Therefore, 1 kilogram of carrots can be determined by dividing 4.90 by 2.27, and that gives us a value of $2.16 US. So in London, 1 kilogram of carrots costs $2.25 US, and in New York, 1 kilogram of carrots costs $2.16 US. Therefore, the carrots are better value for money in New York. In question 26, Karen rounds a number n to 1 decimal place. The result is 23.8. Complete the error interval for n. So given as it's 1 decimal place, I'm going to divide 0.1 by 2, and that gives us a value of 0.05. So 23.8 minus 0.05 equals 23.75, and that will be my lower bound. And 23.8 plus 0.05 equals 23.85, and that will be my upper bound. So the final answers are 23.75 and 23.85. In question 27, we are told that a plane takes 2 hours and 24 minutes to fly from Luton to Alicante. The plane flies a distance of 1,512 kilometers. Work out the average speed of the plane. Give your answer in kilometers per hour. So the first thing we need to do is convert the minutes into hours. So 60 minutes equals 1 hour. So 24 minutes in hours can be obtained by dividing 60 by itself and multiplying that by 24. So in other words, we have 1 times 24 over 60, and that gives us a value of 0.4 hours. And remember that speed equals distance divided by time. So the distance traveled is 1,512 kilometers divided by the total time, which is 2 plus 24 minutes, which we've calculated to be 0.4 hours. And we know that all of this is in hours. And when you put that into your calculator, you should get an answer of 630 kilometers per hour. In question 28, we are told that ABC is a straight line. The point A has coordinates 2, 7, point B has coordinates 8, 12, BC equals a half AB. Find the coordinates of point C. So the first step is to determine the x coordinate of point C, and using the formula given to us in the question, we can simply state that xc minus 8 equals a half multiplied by 8 minus 2. So xc minus 8 equals 3. Therefore, the x coordinate of C equals 11. And to determine the y coordinate of the point C, we can simply use the diagram again and the equation. We have yc minus 12 equals a half multiplied by 12 minus 7. So yc minus 12 equals 2.5. Therefore, yc equals 14.5. So the final answers are 11 and 14.5. In question 29, we are given a trapezium ABCD. The length AB is 12 centimeters and the length AD is 8 centimeters. The trapezium has an area of 112 centimeters squared. Work out the perimeter of the trapezium. So the first thing we know is that the area of the trapezium, which is a half multiplied by A plus B, which are your parallel lengths, multiplied by the perpendicular height, equals 112. So if we substitute the lengths of the perimeter into this equation, we can hopefully determine one of the parallel lengths. So in this case, we have a half multiplied by the length DC plus 12 multiplied by the perpendicular height, which is AD, which is also 8 centimeters, and that equals 112. And if we simplify the left-hand side, we have 4 times DC plus 12, and that equals 112. So if we divide both sides by 4, we have DC plus 12, and that equals 28. So DC equals 28 minus 12, which is 16 centimeters. And in order to determine the perimeter of this trapezium, we need to work out all the lengths. So the only missing length that we have is BC. So if I draw a straight line from BC going up to the length DC, I'm going to label this point as P. And the length PC can be determined by subtracting the length AB from the entire length DC. So PC equals DC minus AB, which is simply 16 centimeters minus 12 centimeters, and that equals 4 centimeters. And if we look at triangle BPC, we can determine the length BC by using Pythagoras' theorem. So length BC can simply be determined by obtaining the square root of 4 squared and 8 squared, and that equals a value of 4 root 5 centimeters. So the perimeter is simply 8 centimeters plus 12 centimeters plus 4 root 5 centimeters plus 16 centimeters, and that equals 44.9 centimeters to 3 significant figures. So the final answer is 44.9. In the final question for today's video, we are told to solve algebraically the simultaneous equations. So the first step is to make y the subject from the second equation, and I'm going to do this by adding y to both sides. So 3x equals y plus 9, and then I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. Therefore, y equals 3x minus 9, and then we can substitute this equation into equation 1, which I'll just label now. So x plus 7 times y, which is 3x minus 9, equals 14. I can then expand my brackets, so I have x plus 21x minus 63 equals 14. And then I can simplify the left-hand side. So 22x minus 63 equals 14. And then we can add 63 to both sides. So 22x equals 14 plus 63, which is 77. And by dividing both sides by 22, I have x equals 3.5. The final step is to substitute this value of x into our equation for y. So y equals 3 times 3.5 minus 9. So y equals 1.5. So my final values for x and y are 3.5 and 1.5. Thank you all for watching today's video. I hope this walkthrough has helped boost your confidence for upcoming exams. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as it really supports the channel. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to S.E.T for you for more walkthroughs, engineering insights, and STEM inspiration. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to cover, please drop it in the comments. And until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and I'll see you all in the next video.